Hi, Chris. Welcome to our show.
Hey, Tella, thanks for having me.
All right. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
All right. So let's start about giving a brief introduction about yourself, who you are, and what do you do?
All right, my name's Chris Bentley. I'm the founder and CEO of Bellatorum Resources. We're a veteran-owned and operated mineral rights company. We buy and sell mineral rights that we just launched our 8th partnership. We call it Fund 5, but technically it's our 8th offering. Before that, I worked for a firm for a couple of years, doing the same business, land acquisitions, mineral rights acquisitions, pipeline easements, things of that nature, but land for the oil and gas industry. And prior to that, I was in the Marine Corps for 14 and a half years. So that's about it.
All right. Yeah, you can start the next one.
Yeah, so let's back up a little. So that's a really great high level question. I want to talk a little bit about how you started your business. I know that you have a business with your wife, and how did that happen? Like, how did you guys figure out we're going to go into business together, and what does that look like?
No, it's it has its challenges, its pros and cons, obviously. So I got laid off at the end of 2015, literally a few days before Christmas. I was working for a company called GMP Land. I was doing some mineral rights brokering on the side for another firm, and I knew there was still a lot of opportunity in the space. So I started Bellatorum, as just providing services and doing small deals in May of 2016. And we started getting some traction. It was just, my wife actually had a job as a management consultant at the time, and she's very risk averse. We're extreme opposite. I'm very entrepreneurial. She's very data. Hey, does it make sense? All that, and it's good. We balance each other out. But I was like, I need your help. I can't do this on my own anymore. We're getting traction. I'm busy. I've got a lot of deals. I need somebody to take care of the back office stuff and the finances. And so she was like, look, if you can make $40,000 in the next couple of weeks and prove to me that this works, then I'll quit my job. And funny true story. I closed the deal, made 40 grand in profit on it, and I screenshotted her from the phone the bank account, the deposit, and I texted to her and I said, hey, you need to put in your notice. And she did. She put in her notice, and she quit her job, and so she's a co-founder in that essence of, we wouldn't have been able to grow this to where it is today without her. And so in 2016 we were still providing services, doing smaller deals like that, $10,000 to $20,000, buying, flipping quickly, making commissions on deals that we brokered or whatever. And then I started the executive MBA program in August of 2016. That's where I met you, Diane. And as you guys know, we get assigned a coach in your first year in the executive program. And I won the lottery with my assignment as a coach. I really did. Barry Goldware, who's the founder of Sun and Ski Sports, he started that as one store and grew it to, many stores across the United States, and I think he sold it before he was assigned as my coach. He had sold Sun and Ski Sports and did very well for himself. And in the process of getting to know each other, he was like, Chris, what do you do for a living? I'm like, I'm a landman. I buy and sell mineral rights, and it's such a niche asset class in business that a lot of people don't know about. And he's like, what's that? And telling him, it's like, can I invest in it? I never thought about managing other people's money or asking other people for money. I just thought I was going to grow this thing slowly with my own money over time. And so Barry, in early 2017, said, hey, here's 50 grand, let's do some deals, and we'll split everything 50-50, the profits, but let my money ride, and you can take yours to cover your expenses and overhead. And so we buy a deal for 50, sell it for 60, for example. Now we've got 55 because we took 5 grand to cover our expenses and overhead of doing the business, and we buy a deal for 55, and we kind of built this snowball for Barry very quickly and did well for him. And he went and talked to his network about it, and we've just grown from there. I mean, we've got a bunch of my IMBA classmates, including you, Diane, that have helped us grow and get where we are today with investments. But that's kind of the story. I know I went off on a tangent, but my wife is still C-level partner at the company. We both are running the company, and it has its challenges, but there's a trust factor there that is just invaluable so she handles the finances and the bookkeeping and the admin back office operations, and she's amazing at that. She's also really good with data, and we're in a very data driven business where there's so much bad data that needs to be cleaned up, and so she kind of heads up those projects as well, and definitely couldn't be here without her help. So
Right. Sounds like she keeps the whole operations kind of running smoothly.
absolutely. Yep.
All right. So tell us about a moment in your career that was probably a tough time. You mentioned the time when you actually made it, when you got your $40,000 deposit, but there has to be a time where things weren't going right. And then what was the feeling, and what was the actual reaction of you to that situation, and how do you come out of it?
No, that's a great question. Look, any business, oil and gas, technology, any business period has its ups and downs. And one thing that we've been blessed with is the way our asset class works. Our investors are always doing well, right? Even when we're not. So our fee structure, we don't get paid until we get a big windfall for our investors. So during the hold period, they're collecting cash flow, and we're sending distributions every month, but that doesn't mean we're making money, right? So there have been some hard times, I mean, even recently, where our investors are none the wiser because they're getting deposits in their account every month, but Bellatorum's struggling from an overhead standpoint or whatever. So there's in 2018, our first proper fund, if you will. That's why I say we're on Fund 5, but technically it's our 8th iteration of managing other people's money. So our first proper fund, it was called Phalanx Minerals, and it was only $2.3 million. Well, as you guys can imagine, a 2% management fee on $2.3 million doesn't cover a team of people on salary with benefits and your office rent and your electricity bill and internet and all that, right? So there were times where I didn't know if I was going to make payroll, and I mean, by the grace of God and work ethic alone, I think we never missed a payroll. We haven't to this day. We've made some personal sacrifices, obviously, my wife and I not paying ourselves and things of that nature. A few months ago when oil went below zero, we had to let a few people go, very senior guys that were kind of top heavy. So that was one of the hardest decisions. I mean, those guys are classmates and friends and also veterans, and so there's this brotherhood there. And that, to answer your question, those are probably some of the hardest times, having to let people go, and then also go to my wife again, who I've mentioned is very risk averse, and say, hey, look, I promise you this is going to work out, but we're going to have to cut our pay, and our salary in order to make it through this. And thank God for her. She's a great woman, and she's supported me through this. But those were some hard times, I'll tell you, when it was, you have to put the business first sometimes, and all the time, actually. I mean, we're still doing it to this day, but those are some hard times. I think I didn't finish what I was saying a few months ago. We actually sold both of our vehicles. So one thing that a lot of people don't realize as an entrepreneur, access to capital is very hard. Like, getting a loan to buy a house or a car, when you only pay yourself, when you make money and you don't have a salary and a paycheck stub to show the car dealer or the mortgage company, it's hard to get those. So we pay for everything in cash. So we own our house, we own our cars, right? So a few months ago, we had to sell our cars and buy some very if you will, I know these are first world problems, and so I feel kind of bad saying it, but for what we're used to, let's just call them junk cars, right? So we sold our cars, put all that money in the business, minus a few grand each, to buy some used cars that would just get us by. And I don't know if that was a good decision or bad. It definitely helped us bridge the gap and make payroll, but I will say I was using Uber more than that used car because it was in the shop soon after I bought it. Luckily, knock on wood, my wife's cars held up better than mine, so maybe she's a better used car shopper than myself. But
Right. So you did talk about veterans and you talk about faith. How does these relationships with the people that you know and your wife and family and faith can actually help you weather these kind of hard times and storms?
absolutely, I will tell you, I'm very, I was raised, probably like a lot of Americans, as a Christian. A lot of people call themselves Christians, and I'm not I respect all faiths and all that. And I think the key thing that I've learned in my life is that spirituality is important. I don't go and try to compare my faith to other people's faith, but I will tell you my faith in being a Christian and whatnot, especially now, has been absolutely instrumental and foundational in helping me build this business and make it weather the storms. During, when in the Marine Corps, I did 6 deployments. I did several to Afghanistan, several to Iraq. You witness some things that makes you question faith, or the, the universe, if you will, right? And so there was a time where I wouldn't say I was an atheist, but I just kind of got off my spiritual journey. Well, I think in 2016, actually, and just before we started Bellatorum, I kind of got back onto a path of trying to connect with God and build a relationship with God. And I wouldn't be here. I mean that 100%. It helps me sleep better. It helps me not be quick to anger. It helps me be a better father. I think a better leader and manager of the company. So I would say that faith as a piece of advice to anybody, just on your personal relationships, your business, anything, you should take the time every single day to go on your spiritual journey. So I mean, I literally wake up every morning and the first thing I do is I pray and I read the Bible, and I just try to educate myself further and and have spiritual conversations. Our attorney, who I respect very much. I mean, he's become a very close friend, and Bellatorum wouldn't be where it is without our attorney. His name's Nasser Pasha. Pasha Law is based here in Houston, and he's a devout Muslim. And Nasser and I have a lot of spiritual conversations, and they're just very enriching and learn. And they're not like, hey, the Bible's better than the Quran, or it's not, it's very educational, and we both learn from each other. And at the end of the day, every conversation we have, I feel like we both walk away saying, hey, what matters is that we both have a relationship with God, and we value a spiritual journey, and it helps us be better people. So I'll get off my soapbox on that, but you asked the question,
Yeah.
So I appreciate that, because it is definitely important. So.
Yep. And I think related to that, one of the best leader quality is to work with differences and not just impose yourself or your ideas on others. So that, I think, makes a difference between a great leader and a manager, or just a good leader. So thank you. Yeah, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, no, speaking about great leadership, so Chris is in our class of 2018, and Chris has been one of those standout people when I look back. When I see you and how you interact, you are truly one of the greater leaders, I think. And leadership is synonymous when I think of you. Well,
Really?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I thought I was quiet and kind of, trying not to to stand out. I really felt out of my league when I was at Rice. You know, I was in a classroom with a bunch of, you know, executives, and I really wasn't. I was an entrepreneur with about 2 years experience in the corporate world and 14 and a half years as a Marine, you know, and so I really felt out of my league around all of you folks. So, I mean, I didn't know corporate finance was an English, you know, word before I got out of the Marine Corps and went to Rice. So, you know, so I learned a lot from all of my classmates, and I appreciate you saying that, but it's surprising.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that's why we're here today. We want to connect with another Rice alumni, and your story actually started in 2016, 2017, the first year of the MBA program. What an incredible Rice alumni story. And now, can you tell us a little bit about the funds and what year, you know, what fund, how much you guys raised, and kind of.
Yeah, so, you know, again, Barry Goldware, our first guy. So in 2016, you know, in August, just out hustling, doing small deals on my own, right? And Ken Ma and Otis Desai, you know, who they sat right next to me. And Kim Sturgis and Oscar Villanueva, that, you know, how we all sat together every time. But definitely Ken and Otis, because they sat right next to me, saw that. I'm like, hey guys, I need to look at your notes because I've got to go out in the hallway during class and you know, close some deals or take some phone calls. And man, it was hard. I'll tell you, it was hard to get all the reading done and the work and run the business. And you know, and again, I couldn't have done it without my wife because she was taking care of a lot of those things while I was sitting in the classroom on Friday and Saturday, you know. But we, you know, Barry Goldware, to answer your question, he gave us the 50,000 first, and that we had a general partnership that Barry's attorney set up, local firm here, Boyer Miller Law Firm, very successful firm, you know, helped us structure that entity, and we took on Barry's capital and did a few deals and did really well by him. So then we shut that one down after a few months. Like, we gave him his money back plus his profits, and he brought on, I think, you know, I don't know if I'm at liberty to say, but one of his contacts, we started another partnership, same structure, and then myself, Ken, Otis, and then a couple of my friends set up one too. And so we had these two partnerships kind of running parallel for the rest of 2017. We did really well for them, and then that's when in January 2018,
you had like 60% returns, I remember.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It was 60% annualized returns net to the investors. We did really well those first few, and then same in the January 2018, we got over 60% net, returned all the principal back, plus, you know, 60%. I think it was like more like 64% net to the investors, and then we launched you know, another one which you're in. Obviously, it's around 22.7.
And I'll jump in real quick, but you know, when you guys were hitting those, you know, 60 to 64%, I mean, you guys were all the buzz. I mean, we invested because we heard your returns.
Mm-hmm.
That was incredible.
Thank you. Yeah. No, and look, there's the partnership now. You know, we don't make our money again those until the big windfall at the end, right? You don't want to ever be a distressed seller and go to market trying to sell something like in today's environment. It's a great time to buy. But even the one that you're in, right, we haven't hit that 60% yet, but I think you've gotten 12.5 or 14%, somewhere around there, net to you after net of fees. And I think that's still pretty respectable. You know, it's not what we'd like. Obviously, again, Bellatorum doesn't make money until we get that big windfall of capital gains at the end. But, you know, 12.5% annualized or whatever is not a bad return, especially when you know there's more to come and you're still collecting cash flow during the hold period. So we think we'll get back to that. If you can imagine, I mean, just like buying into the stock market, right? You want to buy low, this is a good time to buy. Same in our asset class. This is a great time to get in right now, and we're really excited. You know, this this current market environment doesn't scare us. We're actually happy about it and excited for the opportunity. So
I know you're on your maybe 8th fund, and you can clarify that. Tell us, how you did a pivot during the pandemic.
Yeah, so this is our 8th partnership. We're calling it Fund 5 because the first 3 were Little Friends and Family LLCs. So this is our 8th partnership, but we're calling it Fund 5 again. And the way, this is kind of a pivot. We're not pivoting our strategy. We are, holding what we've got in our existing, assets. All that capital is deployed. We feel it's a great time to go out and buy new assets. So our pivot was like, hey, we just need to go out and raise a new fund so we can take advantage of the current, the distressed assets that are available in the market right now. So, that's kind of our pivot. Somewhat, learning about SEC and FINRA regulations, currently we only have 99, we're only allowed to have 99 investors, or were, right? But now we worked with with Pasha Law again, and we figured out that the way we're structured, we're actually allowed to have 2,000 accredited investors. So that's allowed us to lower our minimums from $250,000 to $10,000, and so we're still only getting accredited investors, but it makes the barrier to entry for investors who would have invested with us previously but just didn't have $250K available in cash to do that. It's allowing people to come dip their toe with us, and if we get 2,000 investors at the minimum, that's $20 million, and we'll be able to go out and acquire some really good assets with that. And that'll help Bellatorum as well with our existing partnership assets to now bundle those and sell them when the market corrects at a really good margin for everybody. It'll be a win-win.
That's a smart strategy. So I think the big question is, I know a lot of viewers are probably asking, you're on your 5th fund, and you would think you'd probably go the institutional route by then. So tell us, your thoughts on that.
We've talked with a lot of institutional capital raisers, the folks that say, hey, we can get you access to institutional capital. We've also talked directly with institutions that have sought us out. I will tell you that it's a different world. I don't want to disparage anybody, but I'll say Bellatorum has achieved our success and our returns because we're doing things differently, right? Our partnership structures are unique. They're different. They're like nothing you've seen before. And when people read them who have experience, they're like, I don't understand this limited partnership agreement or your private placement memorandum, because they're used to looking at the institutional grade. And so they're like, oh, this doesn't work. Well, if you look at private equity backed firms and institutions, they get very modest returns, and conventional returns. So if you want conventional returns, do conventional things, is what I like to say. But if you want unconventional and outsized returns, challenge the status quo, do things differently. And I will tell you, the institutions always, again, not to disparage, I'm not saying I've talked to every institution, but the ones that I deal with, they think they know better than you. They say, hey, we're going to handcuff you, we're going to control everything, we're going to tell you where your office can be, we're going to tell you which third-party administrator you can use, which law firm to use. And I'm like, look, I've turned down a $50 million check because, and that was hard, I will tell you. I was like, man, Bellatorum's getting to the next level. But they just wanted to control everything. And I was like, look, if I don't have the managerial latitude that I've had thus far, then I won't be able to continue. You think about it. How did you get to where you are today, Chris? Well, I did it because I was out hustling, doing deals. I had the latitude to make decisions, buy and sell things opportunistically. Now you want to put me in a box and say, this is what you're allowed to do. I won't be able to do what I did over here if you put me over here, So that's was my thinking. And I'll tell you, it was a hard one. Mary and I talked a lot about it, and she was like, look, just pray about it, let's think about it. And at the end of the day, we were like, we can't do it because it won't be Bellatorum anymore. It'll be private equity group A backed management team that then will get discarded one day, and you know.
So
Anyway.
how much are you guys raising?
Look, our target has been since the beginning of 2018. We ran a bunch of models and numbers, and we know we can manage up to 250 million under this same strategy. Our goal was like, hey, let's get to 100 million. You know, if you think about 2,000 investors, if 2,000 people cut a 50 grand check, you know, we'll get there. But if even just a 10,000, we'll get to 20 million, and then maybe we can do a series of partnerships now where we get to 100 million at least. But in our strategy, we think if we had 100 million, then we won't have to raise capital anymore, because you talk about the velocity of capital, and if we have a long enough lockup period where we can use the capital and just distribute capital gains and royalty income, we can recycle the principal so many times during that hold period, and that'll allow us to really make some returns and not need to continuously raise capital. Right now we're in continuous capital raising mode because we don't have enough assets under management, you know, and so again, a 2% management fee, we're not covering our overhead with our current AUM. So we're constantly under the gun to opportunistically flip assets, or, you know, get higher yielding assets, which then distribute to the investors. And still we're kind of in this catch-22 space. But I will tell you, we're on the ground buyers, and I don't think there's a company out there that can compete with us on the ground level. I mean, I hate to sound arrogant, but we have, I would argue that our team is the closest to the individual mineral rights owners, and the ability to pick up these assets direct is better than any other team out there. And so we obviously generate alpha that way, because we're not out buying deals that are being marketed around to everybody or on auction sites, etc. So, you know, I think our biggest goal is to at least get to 100 million. Again, we could handle up to 250 million. I wouldn't want $1 more than that, because, you know, that there's you know, diminishing returns, right? When you have so much and we want to be buying the smaller deals, aggregating them, bundling them up, and then selling them to the you know, tier 4, where we say the assets go to die and literally live out their productive life. So those end buyers that hold the assets in perpetuity until the last drop of oil or MCF of gas comes out of the ground, you know. That's the goal, is to aggregate all those assets and get them up the food chain.